In the final day of polling at the national level in the 2020 presidential election, Joe Biden led by 7.2 percentage points and only won the national popular vote by 4.5 points that same election, going from a very comfortable win in the electoral college and ended up being a pretty close election that was only decided by Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona. If they had gone to Donald Trump, he would have won through the House of Representatives, and they more than likely would have elected Mike Pence as the vice president through the Senate. Now, looking at the current polling, the same polling that overestimated Joe Biden by 3 points, Kamala Harris only leads by 2 percentage points in the head-to-head matchup. Even this popular vote win wouldn't even translate to an electoral college victory, as Hillary Clinton won the national popular vote by 2.1% in 2016 and suffered a decent loss in the electoral college that was narrowly decided by Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. However, Kamala Harris does not have the cushion that neither Hillary or Joe Biden had, and is now looking at just a 2-point win in the RCP aggregate, which has overestimated Democrats in the last 2 cycles. This means that Kamala Harris is in great jeopardy of losing the 2024 presidential election. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today we're going to be looking as to why Donald Trump is currently favored to win the 2024 presidential election in a very simple breakdown. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. Make sure to go ahead and to comment down below to help us out with the algorithm, and follow me on X at onpointpolitics in all lowercase. Now, looking at this, it is very straightforward. I have my own scorecard for the 2024 national polling from that election from October 2nd to November 2nd, looking at an aggregate of all the polls from about a month before the actual election, which occurred on November 3rd. This is the margin of error for all of the polling data. As we can see here, the 4 A-graded pollsters, Rasmussen, Emerson College, Big Data Poll, and Atlas Intel, all had a margin of error essentially equal to half a point or less in either direction, making them the most accurate national pollsters in the 2020 presidential cycle. What I have done is I've essentially gathered them all together and essentially gotten all their demographic margins placed in a single spreadsheet, created averages for the demographic margins, and plugged them into the Cook Political Report Swingometer, which will now allow me to decide the states for the 2024 presidential election and give you guys a good idea as to where this is going to go. We have also calculated the 4 polls electorates, and we've also weighed the results to this electorate right here, about 68% white, blacks at 12%, Hispanics at about 12%, and Asian/other being at about 8% of the population. And looking at this, Donald Trump wins whites by 12 points, Harris only wins African Americans by 50, Kamala Harris only wins Hispanics by 14, and Asian/other actually goes to Donald Trump by a whopping 4 points. Funny enough, the state margins end up adding up to a Trump plus 3.5 percentage point margin in the popular vote. However, the most accurate national pollster, that being Atlas Intel, as listed on my scorecard right here, of only having a margin of error of 0.2% as its absolute value, only had a Biden plus 4.7 margin in the 2020 presidential election, and now currently has a 3.6 percentage point lead for Donald Trump, which essentially aligns with the model we have constructed today based on the most accurate poll demographics. This actually provides a 8.3 percentage point shift to the right in the popular vote, which will allow Donald Trump to capture all of the swing states in the presidential election. All of the state margins will now be reviewed, and we will be filling out the map as we go. Looking at the safe Republican states, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas, as well as the Nebraska and the 1st and 3rd congressional districts, except for the 2nd congressional district, Kansas, Oklahoma, Alaska, as well as Arkansas, Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and South Carolina are all in the safe Republican column for Donald Trump, adding up to 125 safe electoral college votes for the former president. Looking at the safe Democrat states, we have no other than the state of California at just 16 points for Kamala Harris, as well as the District of Columbia at a 66-point win for Kamala Harris. We also have the state of Maryland at just about 20 points for Kamala Harris, 19.5-point victory to be exact, and about a 25-point margin in the state of Massachusetts, accompanied by a 28-point victory in the state of Vermont. This is pretty interesting because there's actually been a lot of polling to suggest that Maryland will be about a 20-point race. And in California, you do have a lot of Hispanic, African American, and Asian voters, especially that Asian demographic. And Donald Trump leading with Asian/other racial demographics is going to give him a pretty big boost in the state of California, which helps him out in the popular vote quite a bit in this video. Now, looking at the likely Republican states, it's fairly interesting, but a majority of the states on the map are actually going to be likely Republican based on the demographics in this video. Looking at the states of Iowa and Ohio, you have, give or take, looking at the margins here, about 13 and 14-point victories in the state of Iowa and Ohio respectively with our demographic model. That is an improvement from the last election where Donald Trump won the state of Iowa by 8 points and Ohio by 8 points respectively. So clearly the national popular vote is shifting to the right, but whites actually shift a point left from the previous election cycle where Donald Trump actually won them by about 13 points. And so now we're only looking at a 12-point victory with whites. So that actually shifted a little bit to the left, or may have actually stagnated. And so states with a pretty decent white population are going to shift to the right by less than other states that have a little bit more of a minority population. Now, looking at Texas and Florida, Texas in this forecast is roughly going to be about a 13-point win for the former president, as well as the state of Florida being around an 11-point victory for Donald Trump, giving him about 218 electoral college votes. Looking at Maine's 2nd congressional district, a 13-point win is on the horizon, which is 6 points better than what it was in the previous cycle, somewhat matching up with the 8-point shift nationally. However, the district does actually trend to the left in this video. Now, continuing the likely Republican states, we have the state of North Carolina in this video at a 9.8 percentage point victory for Donald Trump. The state of North Carolina has a very sizable African American population, and looking at the Cook Political Report swingometer, we do see that Donald Trump has improved in Georgia and in North Carolina by quite a bit and is winning about 22% of the African American vote. And so because of that, since the electorates in North Carolina and Georgia range from 25 to 30%, that shift is going to be a pretty sizable difference in a state like North Carolina and Georgia, which basically both round out to about 10-point victories, which are pretty massive wins. And I don't know if they're going to be that lopsided, but that's currently what this demographic model essentially has for these states. Looking at Arizona, we see about a 6-point victory in the state of Arizona. Hispanics are definitely going to be a big play there, as well as the fact that immigration is a very big issue. The state of Nevada is a 6.6 percentage point win, which rounds out to a 7-point victory. So Nevada and Arizona are practically voting together in this election, which is what I expected because give or take, they're probably going to be voting together with the nation now. So Arizona and Nevada will most likely be paired up as to who they're voting for this cycle. If Kamala Harris were to win Nevada, I'd expect her to win Arizona and vice versa. And if Donald Trump wins Arizona, I'd expect him to also win Nevada at the same time, since they are both voting with each other this cycle closely enough at the national level. Continuing with the likely Republican states, Wisconsin's coming in as a 5.6 percentage point victory, a state where Donald Trump is outperforming his previous polling in 2020 by 5 to 7 points, depending on what poll you're looking at. And so this is a great sign for Donald Trump, especially that pollsters haven't necessarily changed their methodology too much. And all of the accurate pollsters have Donald Trump either up in the state by 1 or 2, or still have him up by 2 to 3 points. And they still miss to the left direction by a few points or so. And so this is a good sign for the former president to be winning the state of Wisconsin by a pretty comfortable margin including the state of Pennsylvania at a 5.5 percentage point victory. Republicans have been gaining in net registrations in the state of Pennsylvania by quite a lot. They've closed the registration gap for Democrats by quite a bit as of right now. And Michigan comes in as exactly a 5-point victory in this video, which is very fascinating. We've also had an Atlas Intel poll that suggests that Donald Trump is up in the state by 4, but when you reweigh for education and make the sample a little bit closer to what it was in 2020, you get something very close to a 5-point win in the state of Michigan as of right now. So a lot of the work that I've done in my official projections is actually showing in this video right now based on the demographic modeling, and you can see all of the traditional swing states, including a lot of these red states, are all likely Republican in this video, which gives Donald Trump a very easy victory in the Electoral College. Now, he has already won the election just looking at the likely Republican states, but we're going to be filling out the rest of the states in this video. But before we do that, let's go ahead and go to betonline.com, where you can bet on the presidential election. As you can see right here, Donald Trump is the underdog as of right now. If you were to roughly bet $100, you'd win about 105 if you were to bet on Donald Trump as of right now to be the presidential winner, which means their odds are roughly tied in this video. Looking at the state margins, you can also bet on which state will go to which candidate. You will also be able to bet on the margins as to how, Republican or Democrat, or what typical margin they will actually be. You can also bet on the Senate elections as well, which is interesting. And you can also vote on the House of Representatives, or at least bet on them. So this will be a pretty cool website for you guys to be able to check out in the description down below. They have been a sponsor for the channel for the past month or so, and have been very, very helpful. And so moving on with the video, looking at the likely Democrat states, we have the state of Washington at about an 11-point win, as well as Oregon at a 9-point victory for Kamala Harris. Colorado coming in at just 7 points for Kamala Harris in this video. Now, what's very interesting is the state of Hawaii is only a 7-point victory in this forecast. Now, you may say, well, that's a little bit lopsided, but we've had polling that had third-party candidates in the mix that actually showed Joe Biden only leading the state by around 8 points, as that is the only official poll that's been conducted in Hawaii in the 2024 presidential cycle. It also has been the state that has moved the most Republican out of any state in the union. As you can see, Hawaii shifted from Obama plus 45 to Obama plus 43, and then shifted all the way from there all the way to Clinton plus 32, and is now a Clinton plus 30, or was a Biden plus 30 state in the 2020 cycle, but still trended a few points to the right. Basically meaning that the state has been trending 5 to 10 points to the right every cycle. And with the Maui fires and the unpopularity of the Joe Biden administration, you may see the state actually take an even further rightward trend as of right now, putting it below the 10-point category and making it a somewhat competitive state, almost as competitive as Colorado and Wisconsin and a lot of the swing states. Georgia and North Carolina would be voting to the right more than Hawaii would be voting to the left, which is very, very fascinating. Looking at the state of Illinois, an 8-point victory is on the horizon for Kamala Harris. Looking at the state of New York, we see give or take roughly about a 13-point victory in the state for Kamala Harris, as well as a 12-point victory in Connecticut, a 9-point victory in Delaware, and going to Rhode Island, we currently see give or take about roughly I actually think it comes out to about a 13-point win in this forecast here. So that is pretty interesting as well. And we look at New Jersey, just about a 6-point win for Kamala Harris. So she is struggling in some of those states there. Now, looking at the lean Democrat states, New Hampshire comes in at just 2 points for Kamala Harris, as well as Maine at large coming in at about 3 points for Kamala Harris, with that first congressional district being a safe Democrat state as of right now. Now, these states in my forecast are actually going Republican due to the fact that Donald Trump is gaining with whites by a pretty decent amount in my demographic model, which is basically only based off of the Atlas Intel polling that was just done, about 2 weeks ago. But when you average out all the demographics, Kamala Harris in the demographic model from the most accurate pollsters is leading in Maine by 3 and 2 points respectively. Looking at New Mexico as well, it's a pretty close race, about a 2-point race for Kamala Harris. You do have a lot of liberal voters in Albuquerque, which is why that state is probably still in the blue column. If Donald Trump were to actually win Hispanics, which is possible, a lot of these pollsters, except for Rasmussen, have underestimated his support with Hispanics before. It's entirely possible that Trump could get pretty competitive in the state of New Mexico. Now, looking at Minnesota, Virginia, and Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, the closest states on this map, Nebraska's 2nd goes to Donald Trump by 0.6% in this forecast, as well as looking at Virginia, just a 0.8 percentage point win for Kamala Harris. A lot of warning signs have been taking place in the state of Virginia. I've been talking to somebody who's been pretty accurate in the state, and they say it's definitely below 5 points right now, and this would kind of match up with that, but I currently have it as a tilt margin in this demographic forecast here. Looking at Minnesota, it is roughly a 0.7 percentage point win, so it seems like both of these states are roughly voting together and would insinuate that Donald Trump's margin of victory could be as high as a 336 to 202 electoral college victory, with Kamala Harris being able to get just the 226 electoral college votes as of right now. And so, looking at this map, guys, based on the most accurate pollsters' demographic modeling from their latest polls, looking at the margins and seeing how closely the popular vote aligns up with the most accurate pollster from the 2024 cycle, or 2020 cycle at least, it clearly seems like Donald Trump is going to have the advantage in the electoral college and may potentially be in for a pretty early night if all of these margins were to hold up. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to go ahead and hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this, and I will see you guys in the next video.